Okay, welcome to Friday. Guys excited about the weekend? Okay, enjoy the weekend and know that we only have one more week of classes. Following that is your semester exam week. So, up on the screen is a list of what we have left for these 2 weeks. So, today we're going to take notes on photosynthesis. And it does say a study guide for the upcoming quiz. On our next class, we have a quiz on cellular respiration and photosynthesis. And the study guide are the two notes that we've gone over. Today we're going over the photosynthesis notes, so that's half of the study guide. And then, what was it? Monday the 29th, we went over notes on cellular respiration, and that's the other half of the study guide. Today we're going to go over the notes on photosynthesis, and at the second part of the class, I'm going to have you go to a lab table, 2 to 3 people per group, and you are going to verbally explain photosynthesis. So this will be the second class on photosynthesis. On our last class, you did the interactive lab, and you moved the molecules around on the screen, but maybe you got a little involved with just moving things and not really understanding what you're doing. So after today, I'm encouraging you to maybe even go back to that interactive because they do such a great job. So we're going to get right down to how plants make sugar. And it's really quite simple because if you understand cellular respiration and how the mitochondria work from these other notes, this is just the flip. It's just the reverse. It's almost the exact playbook, but in backwards direction. So it just takes a little bit of conscious effort and practice, and then you'll get it. But if all you do is just watch me do this, then it just kind of flies at you like, oh my gosh, enough already. I can't stand it. This is too much detail. We're just doing the big picture, and it does have a sequence of events, but once you get it, it will click and it will stick with you. So a couple of announcements before we get into that, and that is the semester exam study guide. Right over here, I've got it in your homework because the photosynthesis notes we take today, you'll finish it in class, you'll turn it in. So you really don't have any homework except get yourself ready for the quiz on the next class and do the semester exam study guide if you haven't already done so. Some people have finished it and turned it in, so when you do finish it, go ahead and turn it in. Don't wait until December 7th. And please don't turn in any more late work if that was your habit, because you really erode your grade. You lose the chance to get an A or a B if you turn in a lot of late work. So it's just a habit you have to break if that is describing you. And take a look at why you have the grade you do. And sometimes it's just because of a lack of staying on top of due dates. So that's a pretty big assignment if you haven't started it. There are 70 questions in the study guide. I gave you some class time on the last class to work on it. So continue to do so. That's due the middle of next week, because on December 9th, we're going to do a review of the final. We're not going to go over every answer in the study guide. I've got other things to do for review of the semester exam. For you guys, it's going to be on Thursday, December 16th. And so we'll spend a class time to do that. The extra credit is due December 13th. So a lot of students have now turned that in, and your grade will go up 1 to 2 percentage points before the semester exam. All of this boosts up your confidence in your grade going into the semester exam. Remember how I said don't be a borderline grade? If you find yourself at a borderline, then the semester exam is really important, because you've got to maintain a grade or do well in order to go up to the next higher grade. But if you have like an 81% and don't do well in the final, then you go down to a C. So try not to be anywhere near 3 percentage points of that border between two grades. If you do find yourself there, this becomes an important exam. Why don't you prioritize all of your classes, the ones that are the most important semester exams, put a lot of effort into that. So don't wait until the night before. These study guides have been there for, I think, about a month now, so you shouldn't wait till the last minute. You can't do well on anything if you cram the night before. If you have a big important match in sports, you're not going to start thinking about the night before, like, what am I supposed to do on offense? I mean, that's just silly, right? So be well prepared and seek out help if you need it. I'm available during office hour, after school, just about every day, during lunch, just about every day, and by appointment. So send me an email and I can help you if you need it. Consider being a tutor. Remember on Monarch Television this morning they mentioned that? So some students are going to be looking for other students to help them get ready for finals. If you're an A or B student, you can be a tutor during office hours and school hours. This is the only time you can earn campus ministry service hours while you're on campus. And when you become a tutor or a teacher, you're an excellent student. Imagine if you had to know something well enough to be able to explain it to someone, then you really got it. So those students that are an A student, they're already doing that. They're learning to a level where they could teach it to somebody else, and they've practiced it. So with these notes that we're going over here, cellular respiration and photosynthesis, it'd be best if you could pair up with another student or even a parent. You could give them the answer key and say, here, ask me a question. Or sit down and explain the pictures. But don't just read what you wrote. If you don't have someone to do this with, then print out blank ones and then run through it by yourself and write it out. Don't do it all in your head, because then you're just mentally doing it instead of showing that you've got it down. So those are some tricks. So any questions about the due dates and what's coming up here in the next 2 weeks? Today it is a formal progress report grade. It opens up in Aries later today. It's a snapshot of where you are. Being so late in the semester, that could be what your grade is unless you make some changes to it. Get your missing work turned in and try to improve on your quiz scores. So we've got an important quiz coming up that could raise up your average for a 35% grade category. Let's see, we got some questions? Yeah?
How much percent is the final?
It's 70 questions. It's 15% of your grade. So the semester study guide that you have for the semester exam, it has 70 questions on it. It's not like it's the exact question, but it definitely has the key concept or the key term for that question. So when you do that work, write it in your own words so that you understand it and it can be a study guide. Some students are going to make flashcards out of that or a Quizlet, and they're going to practice, and not just do it like an assignment. I know you could copy it from another student. It's electronic work. It's easy to copy. If you take shortcuts, then you get A on homework and you get D's and F's on tests. So think about why that is, and you want to shore that up. There shouldn't be a big gap between your test scores and your homework. So when your parents ask, do you have any homework over the weekend? You're not going to have any worksheets to do because we're doing it in class, but yeah, you should do a little study. The semester exams coming up, and also this quiz. All right, let's get to the fun stuff, and that is this photosynthesis notes. It is really interesting to know how plants work. You can walk around life having an appreciation for the miracle that God has given us with plants being able to take the energy from the sun and then make sugar. And then all life and the food webs are all tied to photosynthesis. So open this up in Notability and we'll get right to it. While we're getting ready, with everyone loading this, go ahead and answer the first 3 questions. We're going to go over this together, but answer the first 3 questions. The chemical equation for photosynthesis is at the top of the page. Everything to the left of the arrow are reactants. Everything to the right of the arrow are products. On the quiz, you will see these pictures. So make sure you understand the pictures for photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So the information really is going to be there for you, but you have to be able to understand it and talk your way through all the diagrams. Notice that that's been the focus of the notes these last 2 classes. Pictures from the textbook on the left, and then questions that are getting the information out of the pictures. Charlie, I see you're writing. What's the answer for number 1? Right, everything to the left of the arrow. Carbon dioxide, water, and the energy from the sun. Raphael, what's coming out of photosynthesis? Everything to the right of the arrow. Good. This looks familiar, doesn't it? This is also what we saw for cellular respiration. Question 3, what's the difference between photosynthesis and cellular respiration? Anyone know the answer? Yeah? They're just switched. The reactants and products are switched. The easy way to do that would be have the arrow go the other way, and that's cellular respiration, except the energy is different, right? Our mitochondria don't use the energy from the sun. They create energy in ATP. What organelle, question 4, is photosynthesis occurring in? Cassandra? Right, the chloroplast. So they're showing a picture of the square plant cell right here, and then they show the green chloroplast, and then they zoom into it. So this whole yellow bean right here, that is the chloroplast. So plants are green because the chloroplast is green. The chloroplast is green because there's a green pigment inside of the chloroplast. So a big focus on your study should be what's going into each phase and what comes out. We're not going to go into too much detail with the hundreds of chemical reactions that take place. We're doing the big picture. Photosynthesis is broken down into 2 parts: the light reaction and the Calvin cycle. So you can see inside the chloroplast on the left-hand side, it shows where light is coming in. That's the light reaction. And then that is going to make the energy for the motor on the right-hand side, called the Calvin cycle. A guy by the name of Calvin figured this out, so it carries his name. And notice it's a cycle. As long as you have the power plugged in, And as long as you are dumping in the raw material at the top of the motor, it's going to crank out sugar. So the energy is ATP and the electron carrier. And here's the raw material, carbon dioxide gas. We're going to strip the carbon out of that gas and then string it together and make sugar. So let's answer question 5. What molecules go in and out of the light reaction? You just kind of look to see all the arrows going in. Number 5, coming in, light, water, and dead energy molecules. ADP is a dead, just trying to use a generic term there. That means that it's lacking energy. The electron carrier is empty. The energy molecule, ADP, now is empty of its full energy. So the light reaction, think about it as a battery charger. Maybe you have a gift exchange with your family. You know, with extended families, it's hard to buy presents for everybody. So in my extended 2 families, my family, my wife's family, we just draw names. And then we have to put a wish list together. And one of mine was like a charger for like a phone. But then I'm thinking, well, wouldn't it be cool to have like a outside phone charger with a solar panel? Have you ever seen people that have those? If they go on hikes and stuff, spend a day outside where you don't have access to a plug. So it's a solar panel you open up and now it just captures the sun and then you can plug your device into it. That's what this is over here. The light reaction is going to take the energy from the sun like a solar panel that we have on almost every rooftop here on campus and on the parking structures. And it charges batteries that can then be used. There's a website we can go to and we can find out how much of our electricity we're using comes from the solar panel, so it's kind of cool. Some parts of the day we are getting all of our electricity from our solar panels. So really think about the light reaction as a solar panel to charge up the energy needed for the right-hand motor. What goes out of the light reactions? Did you write down ATP, the electron carrier, and oxygen? So that was the other half of question 5. What goes out? Oxygen, ATP, and NADPH. These blue dots are the electrons. We're going to talk about where those electrons came from. And then question 6, the Calvin cycle. What goes in and what goes out? You just follow the arrows. This Calvin cycle, ATP is coming in, NADPH is coming in, and carbon dioxide is coming in. What comes out? Sugar and the dead 2 energy molecules. ADP is coming out, NADP plus is coming out. Everybody got those? Need to go over it again? Hey, when we get halfway through the notes, we're going to take a break just so that you can mentally focus, and then we'll take a quick break so that you could grab a quick snack, recharge your brain. Some of you have heard about this guy. I put his name up on the board, Roy G. Biv. Middle initial is G. Is this a real guy? No, it's an acronym that stands for what? Colors of the rainbow. See right here? There's the rainbow. White light is a combination of all the colors of the rainbow, and this acronym helps you remember what the order is. Light is just a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Then we also have radio waves, gamma rays, X-rays. All of the energy is in a wavelength. Do you know which side here has the longest wavelength? Is it red or is it violet? Anybody know? Got it? Correct. It is red. So here's the Earth, and as the sun goes over the horizon, the last wavelength, which is really long, able to curve around the curvature of the Earth, is red. That's why sunsets are red. The sky is blue, not because it's reflecting off the ocean. The sky is blue because that's the shortest wavelength, and it's like a pinball machine. I think you guys have played that old game. Pull the plunger back, and the ball goes up there and bounces around on all the bumpers. So that's like blue light hitting all the dust particles up in the atmosphere, and it's up there a lot, and so it's the most numerous wavelength up there. Red and yellows are a long wavelength like FM radio. It goes long distances. But the short wavelengths are ricocheting a lot. So I'll put up on the board, red is a long wavelength, and violet is a short wavelength, and then green is somewhere right in the middle. So looking at this picture that you see to the left of question 6 and 7, is green wavelength reflected or absorbed by the pigment in the leaf? What? Is green being reflected or absorbed? Yeah, that's what it says right here. It's showing you the green line. That means that this is not being absorbed. It's being reflected, or it passes right on through. That's why we see leaves as being green, because that color bounces off and you see it. My shirt's red because red is being reflected and you see it, but green and blue are being absorbed. So the wavelength of light that is being absorbed here is labeled as the red side and the violet side, the short wavelength and the long wavelength. So this is the source of the photon energy that the plant is going to use to excite electrons and then create electricity. And that electricity is going to make ATP to power the motor to crank out sugar. So I think you can answer question 8 now, right? What wavelength of light is reflected? Green. What wavelength is absorbed? Basically all the other wavelengths. In particular, red and blue and violet. The pigment that is green, it's called chlorophyll. There are 2 other main pigments inside the leaves. So now when you look outside and see red and yellow leaves, those are other pigments inside of the leaf that are absorbing other wavelengths. But it's not just chlorophyll. That's the main one, though. All right. Remember the atom? It has a nucleus. It has the positive proton and then the neutron. And then circling that are the electrons. So I'll draw an orbit with an electron there and another one there. And like that. So when the photon of light strikes chlorophyll, like you see in this picture right here, it's going to make this yellow line. Those are electrons. What happens when the energy strikes this is that this electron right here, after it takes on energy, it's going to pop out farther away from the atom. The farther you get away from the nucleus of the atom, the more energy So when light is striking this, it's called exciting the electron. It's going to make it bounce from here farther out, sometimes even far enough out where it's simply lost by the atom and now it becomes flowing electricity. Yeah?
What was the answer to number 7?
What energy goes into the Kelvin cycle? It is right here. Follow the arrow right there. ATP and the electron carrier. And if you need to see or hear the class again, I recorded it last year and I recorded it this year, so you can listen to it again. Your textbook has some embedded videos as well. But to be honest, if you just practice saying it yourself with another person, they're going to go, yeah, that's right. Hey, what did you say? I don't think that's quite right. And then the two of you kind of look it over and go, oh, yeah, it's this way. So when you can learn it on your own, it really sticks with you. Yes? Okay. Can't you answer the question from the diagram? Here's the electron. Here's the energy going in. What happens to the electron carrier? It drops off its electron, and then it becomes the empty car up here. It has to go back to the light reaction. So the electron carrier, that was question 7. That electron carrier is full of energy, and the electron carrier drops off its electron at the Kelvin cycle, and then it goes back to the light reaction to pick up more passengers. Just like an Uber driver. Usually their business is at the airport. They pick up a passenger at the airport, they drop them off at home. They drive back to the airport, pick up another passenger, and then they keep doing that all day long. That's why they charge a surcharge to go to the airports. So now we're on question number 9, and it says, what happens to the electrons in chlorophyll when light strikes them, and where do they end up? So I drew this up on the board. What happens when light strikes it? The electron gets popped out farther in a further electron orbit, and it's lost. Where does it go? It bounces around the different molecules, and it will have a final resting spot, but now it's free-flowing electricity. That's what's flowing down an electrical wire when you plug it into the wall. Electrons don't have a home. They don't have an atom. And so they go to the atom of the metal, they grab it, they let it go to the next atom, and it just goes right on down the line. So metal is a conductor of electricity because it grabs that electron and then it passes it on. Where is this happening? This is called a photosystem, question 10. The photosystem is an embedded protein in the membrane. See the 2 layers of the fat that make up a membrane? Let's zoom out. Here is the entire chloroplast. Do you see the Girl Scout chocolate mint cookie stack? Right here? These guys right here is where the light reaction occurs. It's green because that's where chlorophyll is. And this is made out of membranes. Have a good one. What are the membranes called? Can you see the name in the picture? Thylakoid. Right here, thylakoid. So the chloroplast has a double layer of a membrane, and then there's a double layer of a membrane on the inner membrane, and it's called the thylakoid. So now here's like one mint cookie, and they're doing a cutout of it, and then they're expanding it in this picture. So here's the 2 layers of fat. Each line right there is made up of 2 layers of phospholipids. And they got the embedded protein. Nothing new. We've gone over proteins embedded in the membranes before. They act as channels, right? For actively pumping ions across the membrane. Yeah?
Can you go over number 9?
Sure. So back to number 9, what happens to the electrons in chlorophyll? Light is going to strike it, and the electron gets energized to a further orbit. Electrons are in orbitals around the nucleus. When light strikes it, the electrons were like right here, tight into their nucleus, and then they get popped out farther. That's called exciting the electron. It takes energy to pop them out farther than where they belong. And that energy comes from the photon of light that strikes them. If you write down the electrons get excited, make sure you know what that means, that they are going to go to a further orbit. And then they're lost. This photosystem, question number 10, is located in the thylakoid membrane. So you see where it says over here on the left, the thylakoid membrane? And so we're on the inner membrane of the mitochondria. That's where this chlorophyll is. That's where light strikes it. We're almost at the point where we're going to take a break. So here's a nice diagram of how the energy from the sun, right here, it's a big hammer that's being swung like at the fair trying to ring the bell. So it swings the photon hammer at the chlorophyll, and it makes the electron fly up. It makes the electron leave chlorophyll. This girl up here at the top of the scaffold, she's grabbing that electron. She's a molecule that's accepting it, just holds it for a while and then lets it go, and it goes down the membrane. When it goes down the membrane, you can see it's turning this little wheel. That's that ATP synthase, by the way. It's been embedded in the membrane. And then it generates ATP. Just like in cellular respiration, no different. There are 4 photosystems. Remember that from the interactive? So here's another photon striking the electron again, and it even makes it go more energized. Follow the electron that goes in the bucket, and the bucket is the electron carrier. Question 11. When photons of light strike the photosystem, the electrons leave their molecules of chlorophyll, and where do they go? They go down the electron transport chain. That makes ATP. The electron transport chain. So the electron is going down there. Good questions, by the way. There's no silly question.
I just didn't hear.
Yeah. No, that's okay. When you ask a question, probably 5 other people had the same question, so you're the bold one. So what happens when light strikes chlorophyll? The electron is energized, goes down the electron transport chain, and finally ends up in the electron carrier. Pretty cool diagram that somebody made. Trying to simplify how the electron is first generated with the energy from the sun, goes down the membrane like electricity flowing down a wire. It's going to generate ATP in the process, and then have a final resting place. The electron carrier. See, it takes a little practice. If you're just watching me and listening, a lot of it goes over your head. You're going to have to practice it yourself. It's like your coach saying, hey, you know, it's really easy to dribble a soccer ball. Just do this. All right, yeah. Okay, I can do it in my head. Yeah, okay, but I'm not going to try it. Right? So everything takes practice. Number 12. What are the 2 energy molecules that are generated in this picture? Yeah, we've written them down already. ATP and the electron carrier. Yeah. Electron carrier. Yeah. We're just going to break in class here. After question 13, then 13 and 14, we're going to take a short little break. Now this looks complicated. But over there on that bulletin board, there's a membrane with embedded protein. We've been talking right by the fishtail. We've been talking about membranes having proteins embedded in them for a long time. Here's a protein embedded, another one, a third one, a fourth one. So proteins are wider channels. So there are two forces that you can go through that channel. Passive transport and active transport. Remember that? Sit in your inner tube and go with the flow. Whoop! You don't even have to do anything. No energy required. The other one is try to paddle upstream. That's called active transport. Question 13. Describe the two forces. Active transport. So, does everybody see on the top of the picture there's very few H plus ions? In the center here, there's a lot of ions. Low concentration to high concentration. If you want to be the hydrogen ion going upstream, it takes energy. Where's the energy coming from? The flowing electricity, which is the yellow line. The yellow line are electrons, electricity, providing the energy for the hydrogen ion to go active transport into this space. Question 13, active transport. Filling the space with ions. You know what that is? That's a battery. This is charging the battery. Isn't that what the light reactions are doing? The light reaction is that solar-powered battery charger. Isn't this potential energy? So you are piling up energy in this space between the membranes. It's called the thylakoid space. That was half of question 13. The first force, active transport. Then, like a dam opening up the channel, they're going to allow all that water piled up in the back to come flooding on down. That's passive transport. Open up this ATP synthase right here, and now hydrogen ions. You are sitting in the inner tube, and you're just going to go with the flow, and you're going to fly through that channel, spin that ATP synthase, and it's going to generate ATP molecules. If this sounds strange to you like the first time you heard it, we went over the exact same thing with cellular respiration. The only thing different is where are the electrons coming from? But cellular respiration also has electricity flowing down here. They actively pump the hydrogens into a space. They open up the floodgates and they let the hydrogens flow out and generate ATP. Those are the two processes, active transport and passive transport. Yeah? Like its name implies, it's passive. It doesn't require any energy, so you just sit there and you go with the flow. They're going to go from high concentration and flow down to low concentration. And the last question before we take a quick break, question 14, what two molecules leave the light reaction that we just generated? To the Kelvin cycle, ATP, and the electron carrier. Remember the final electron acceptor right up there? Yeah. All right, it's 1:22. You can have till 1:25, 3 minutes. You can get up, walk around, have a quick snack. Yeah, you can go out.
Take your pill anymore, Alex.
One minute left.
That was Michelle, please tell her to sit by me. I'm so lonely. I never have a table partner. I just think to myself. And I have nobody to talk to.
It's in the second semester.
Exactly. Not that you're taking I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Because some people in the class are not small. So I asked the question for you. Said thanks.
30 seconds.
He said 30 seconds.
Okay, if you can move back to your seats. I think we're going to wrap up in 10 minutes or less, and then you guys are going to go to a lab table and practice saying this yourself. So we're on question 15. Is it hot in here? Little stuff. All right. Like I mentioned, if this seems unfamiliar to you, you did play the interactive game and you moved all these molecules around. So go and play it again, and I think it will start to click. It might take 2 or 3 times. So do you remember how tedious this was with the Kelvin cycle? You had to grab this molecule and bump it into ATP and then bump it into NADPH. And then you had to do it 5 more times. So it just kind of shows you that this has to spin 6 times in order to make 1 glucose molecule. So what we've just finished was the light reaction, making the energy for this motor. Think about it as a wheel that has to crank. As long as you're dumping in the raw material in a big funnel at the top, carbon dioxide, have energy plugged in on the side. If the batteries get dead, plug in new batteries, and the batteries have to keep getting charged up in the light reaction. So it's not really that difficult conceptually. So question 15, what happens to carbon dioxide in carbon fixation? Well, up here at the top, carbon dioxide is a gas. What's coming out on the bottom is a solid sugar. So you're having to fix a gas into a solid. That's what carbon fixation means, question 16. So what has to happen? No, 15 I mean. Carbon dioxide has to get fixed into another molecule to make it a solid. Are we going from a gas to a solid? Isn't that interesting that the food that we eat actually came from carbon dioxide gas in the air? You're exhaling carbon dioxide, and plants take that and they make sugar, and then you eat the sugar and you exhale the carbon. Plants take the carbon, put it into a solid, you take it and you put it into a gas. So we have this relationship with plants, how we use what each other throws away. If you look at the diagram, you have carbon dioxide and it's going to go into this molecule right here, but it's got to go past this box that says Rubisco. That is the enzyme that is going to fix it. It makes it happen really fast. Question 16, the enzyme needed to do this carbon job, it is called Rubisco. Since plants are very numerous on the planet, this happens to be one of the most common enzyme on the planet, Rubisco. So question 17, here's where the energy came from the light reactions. Right here on the right-hand side, ATP and the electron carrier with the two blue electrons. That, by the way, got stripped out of chlorophyll. So what energy is needed? You would have gotten stuck in the interactive game if you didn't first drive this molecule into ATP. If you just tried to click it over here, it wouldn't work. It's got to go to ATP first, and then NADP plus, and then it goes down here. So when you walked in the room, I had the word oil rig written up on the board, which I don't think we talked about this acronym in the last class with mitochondria. So for question 17, you can write the phrase oil rig. This helps you remember some detail that you need in chemistry. Oxidation and reduction. O in oil is oxidation. Oxidation is loss of electrons. Reduction is a chemical equation. Reduction is gain of electrons. Oil, oxidation, loss of electrons. Rig, reduction, gain of electrons. So question 17 says, what energy is needed for reduction? Where is the energy coming from? Where are the electrons coming from? Electron carriers. Reduction is gain. So these electrons right here are going to be gained over here so that it can make sugar. Reduction, a series of chemical reactions where electrons are donated. It's a technicality in chemistry where they call gaining electrons reduction. It's counterintuitive. So question 17, the electron carrier drops off its electrons. That's basically what you need to say. The electron carrier in 17 is dropping off its electrons. And now it has a molecule that is an end product. It's almost glucose. But look, it's got 3 carbons and glucose has 6. So it's going to have to take 2 of these and put them together and make glucose. And it can make everything that it needs from this molecule. It can make proteins from this molecule. It can make fats. It can make its cell wall with this. All right, now question 18. Since this is a motor that has to spin, we've only turned it halfway. So in order to get from here back up to the top so that you can bring in another carbon dioxide, you have to regenerate this molecule right here into that one. What is needed? Energy that you made in the light reactions. So question number 18, what can make the Calvin cycle continue? ATP. Remember doing that in the photosynthesis interaction? Where you had to first drag ATP into that area and then grab this molecule up there? And now for a summary again. All right, we got a couple of pantomimes going on over here. So we're just about done. Let's finish up questions. Expect this to be on the quiz. Pictures like this to be on the quiz. What's the purpose of the light react? No, why do plants release oxygen? We haven't really talked about that yet. So here's the story. Water's needed because they need the hydrogen and they need the electron in hydrogen. Remember the light strikes chlorophyll and chlorophyll loses electrons? How long can you pull electrons out of chlorophyll and expect it to last? It's going to degenerate. It might last an hour, it might last a day, but don't leaves go through photosynthesis for an entire season? So how do they get electrons back that they were losing from the sun hitting them? They strip the electrons out of water. Water is in the roots of plants, and so they just bring the water up to the leaves, and then they strip the electron out of hydrogen, and they throw away the oxygen, and they give off oxygen gas. They hang on to the hydrogen because now it's a hydrogen plus ion that they're going to put inside of the membrane space to create active transport potential energy. So why do plants release oxygen? They throw it away after they disassemble water, after they strip the electron out of water. What's the purpose of the light reactions? To charge up the batteries of ATP and the electron carrier? 21. Why do plants need to take in the gas carbon dioxide? Question 19. Why do plants give off oxygen? Because it's a waste. They don't need it. After they take the oxygen out of water, they're going to pull the electrons out of hydrogen. What's the purpose of the light reaction? Charge up the batteries to make ATP. It's the solar panel electric charger that I was telling you about. ATP. The light reactions, their job was to get electrons as well. That's an energy molecule. Why do plants need to take in carbon dioxide? Hey, that's the raw material to make sugar. Hey, if you're a company that makes a widget, you have to have the steel or the plastic, whatever you're going to make it out of, come in the back door of your plant, and then the front door, you've got your product all boxed up. So the raw material for question 21, and this is the raw material for sugar. Sugar has 6 carbons in it. Did you know that every bend of a symbol, a diagram, there's a carbon on the edge of that? So carbon is all what sugar is made up of. It's got 6 carbons, so that's why you have to have 6 of these. That's why this has to turn 6 times to build a 6 carbon glucose molecule. 21, why do plants need to take in the gas carbon dioxide? Because they need the carbon. 22, what do plants make? They're making sugar. That's the whole purpose of this photosynthesis. Yes, 21. They need the carbon to build up sugar. Yes, ultimately they're making sugar. All right, we're just about done. Question 23. Besides glucose and sugar, here are the other things that it can make. It can make cellulose, which is for its cell wall. It can make starch, which is what potatoes are. It can fill apples and oranges with starch. Starch is their storage molecule for their sugar. Just like in animals, we store our excess calories as fat. They store their excess calories as starch. They can also make other organic compounds. They can make proteins out of this. Out of G3P, a 3-carbon molecule, they can make protein. So at the beginning of class I said this is going to take some practice. If all you do is just have it written down on the page, you might not know what you did. Just like I can tell some of you went through the interactive yesterday and moved things around, but didn't know what you were doing except getting to the next screen. So go back and practice it. That's a really good interactive. Your coach said, here's the playbook, practice it so that we can be on the same page. The quarterback knows that you're going to be there when he throws the ball, and you go, all right, yeah, sure. And then game time, did you practice? Nope. All right, good luck. All right, question 24. This sounds really tough, but hey, if you know what you do and what plants do, let's start with cellular respiration. All right, you eat glucose.
Yes.
What gas do you breathe in?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. What gas do you give off?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. And you also
And water.
give off water. But what's the role of making glucose break down? It's so that you can get energy in the form of ATP, right?
This is 24, right?
This is 25.
Well, I don't know if there's more space.
So it's not hard to write the equation. But look, it says balanced. Have you ever been on a teeter-totter and you're both at the same edge? And then it's like this? Because somebody's bigger, taller. So chemical equations are like this. Unless you're God, you can't create or destroy any atoms in a chemical equation. All you do is you disassemble it like a Lego creation, and then you reassemble it over here. So to balance, you have to add the number 6, which means I need 6 molecules of oxygen. You need 6 carbon dioxides, and you need 6 waters. You need 6 of everything except for glucose. And that balances it out. If you were to count the number of carbons on the left, it equals the carbons on the right, and so on.
You need 6 ATP.
Nope. No, it's ATP.
Oh, you can take carbon dioxide.
Wait, we have to divide.
What?
We have to divide.
You can divide them? What?
We put a line over it.
Oh, glucose's formula, by the way, is C6H12O6. Instead of just writing the name glucose, its chemical equation is C6H12O6.
Do we have to know that?
Yes.
Wait, so you were wrong.
No, I'm. Just know glucose. You'll see in the test somewhere it will tell you what the formula of glucose is. But it's not hard. Do you remember cho cho chomp chomp?
Yes.
This is in a ratio. This is in a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. So there has to be twice as many hydrogens as carbons and oxygens. It's not too hard to remember that.
What else would it be?
So photosynthesis is the exact same thing in other directions. Just like in The Wizard of Oz, when the scarecrow goes, you could go that way or you could go that way. So plants take in carbon dioxide and they need water in their roots and they need the sun's energy. I'll put a big E for energy. That'll confuse some people. So sun's energy. And what do they make? They're making glucose. Oops.
And oxygen.
And they are giving off oxygen.
But is there 6 of each?
And there's 6 there, there's 6 there, and there's 6 there. When you take chemistry class, you're going to learn the process of balancing it. I just kind of told you everything is 6 except for glucose. But it's a little trial and error in your head. You got to go, oh, but now I have too many hydrogens over here, so I got to try a different number. Yeah. Watch somebody go, wait, I wasn't done.
Don't worry, I was done.
So back up here at the top. There's the chemical equation. See, 6 carbon dioxide, 6 waters, 6 oxygens. That's a balanced equation right there. If you were to put the arrow in this direction, right to left, then it is cellular respiration. It might seem complicated, but go over it once or twice and you will have it. We have 10 minutes left in class. That's enough time for you to pair up and to talk through this picture and that picture. Here is the light reaction. Here's how fast it is. You might think it's complicated, but you need to get to the point like this. Here's the light reactions. The light reactions take the sun's energy. It excites an electron that goes down the electron transport chain. When it does so, it is going to make ATP energy. But here's how it does it. First, you have to charge up the battery with active transport. You're going to take the hydrogens from low concentration to high concentration. With that energy going down here, it just pumps it up into this space, builds up all this energy. Open up the dam, which is this protein. Let it flow through by passive transport. When it does, it makes ATP. The electrons need a final resting place, so they go into an electron carrier, and away they go to the Calvin cycle. It just takes a little practice. Record if you don't have a partner, hit record on your phone, on your iPad, and listen to yourself. Just talk in your own words. And then if you hemmed and hawed too much, then just practice it and then hit record and do it again. You're out in the backyard and you're practicing your soccer dribbles. Okay? You got this.
I'm just gonna
I know, it's kind of funny.
Charlie just doesn't know how to control herself. Just don't mind her. There's no credit.
Here's how easy the Kelvin cycle is. The Kelvin cycle takes the energy from the light reaction right over here, ATP, the electron carrier. It's like a motor. That's the energy. You need to bring in the raw input of a gas of carbon that's going to take the carbon out of that and string 6 of them together. It needs the energy to do that. And then it resets itself so that it can keep doing this as long as you have energy coming in. All this energy gets used up, and it has to go back to the light reaction to get charged up like a battery. That's it. Pair up and give it a try.
Mr. Reynolds, I've got